Up, my friends, you are very welcome along to tonight's show. Fair to say we have a lot to go through over the next hour or 90 minutes, depending on how much information comes to hand. We are, of course, going to be focusing on the news today about the new Super League and that's launch. We're going to be talking, of course, about the game against Arsenal coming up at the weekend. We're going to talk all things transfers and lots of other bits and pieces along the way. As always, this is your show. We want you to tell us where you want to go with it. I've got my notes prepared. I'm ready to get stuck in. The reason I left it and didn't do this show earlier on in the day was I wanted to get as much information to hand, get as much reading done as I could about this new Super League, what it entails, and what maybe we as football fans can expect to happen over the coming weeks, months, and indeed years. So I do thank you for your time. Apologies, it was a couple of minutes late starting, but we're here now. Let's get stuck into it and pop away with any questions. If we can answer them, that's what we're here to do, but we will, of course, get into the transfer stuff as well. So, my friends, I hope we're all good. There was a comment I wanted to just address in the chat from Bobby, man. I did see your lovely comment, Bobby. Thank you, mate. Appreciate you. Appreciate the support, man. It means a lot. Thank you. So, yeah, some questions, I guess. Some people were in the chat saying, Craig, UEFA haven't decided anything yet. Fair enough, but I can only take you through what's been reported in the media and where we stand at this moment in time. So, I think we should just have a chit-chat for a few minutes, let the audience build up, and then we'll get stuck into the Super League stuff, the transfer stuff, so we don't repeat ourselves and we don't have to go back over things and annoy people in the chat. I'm going to read through a few of your comments and then we'll get stuck into it. But as always, your thoughts are most welcome. We appreciate your feedback and we're here to give you as much info as we can. Super League will be the end of the Premier League, said Davino. Morning cuties in Australia, said Nathan. How are we, dude? Does anybody know anyone selling Liverpool Arsenal tickets? I can't help you on that one, Joe. I'm loving the content. Keep up the hard work, said Greek Freak. Thank you, my man. That's very kind of you. Craig, have you seen that FSG and the PIF might be teaming up? So, I don't know what specifically you're referring to. I'm assuming it's something to do with the PGA stuff, because I know that that FSG were part of a consortium that were looking to invest in the PGA. They were leading that consortium, I believe. But if it's anything other than that, I don't really know what it is that you're referring to. Liverpool want to join it, and you've got that proof where? The captain? Where exactly? Is there any reports or wording coming out of Liverpool that in any way suggests they want to join it? In fact, if you looked at the owners' rule book and guides that they designed, they basically signed away the ability to go and join a breakaway Super League. So the owners' charter in the Premier League will stop that from being a possibility. So is it confirmed? It's confirmed that it exists, and we will go into it, and I'll give you the legal side of it and all that kind of stuff over the next few minutes. We've got some graphics that we've prepared as well to give you guys bullet points on the information that we've been able to garner ahead of this, launch today. They won't dare risk pissing us off again. It would be carnage. So, at this moment in time, before we get stuck into the detail, all that today has accomplished really is that a court in Luxembourg has decided that UEFA/FIFA do have a monopoly and are restricting competition in Europe for football. That's the only part of this that's been really decided so far. And again, I will give you that information in more detail in a little bit. I don't expect Liverpool to have any part in this Super League. I don't expect any of the English clubs to have any part in this so-called Super League. It has been a restructured Super League. It's gone, again, all this information we'll give you over the coming minutes. I just want to wait for the notifications to go out in the chat to fill up. Hope it was a good day for you. It was a busy day. Lots of reading today, in all honesty, mate. Trying to keep up to date. I did put out the preview, by the way, for the Arsenal game earlier on. I don't know if you guys had a chance to have a look at it yet. If you have, would love to know your thoughts on it. After reading some comments in the media, I think the more I think about this now, the more I think I've made a slight mistake in my prediction. I think we're likely to see Darwin on the left with Diaz to be rested based off the vibes I'm getting from the journalists around Liverpool. So maybe we're going to see Diaz rested and Darwin put on the left for the game against Arsenal. Jamie Edwards said, I don't want us involved in the Super League, but good to keep UEFA on their toes. See, that's a really good point you've raised there, Jamie. nobody's clean in all of this, mate. Nobody is doing this out of the goodness of their hearts or virtue. It is, of course, all about the bottom line. It's all about money and it's all about greed. And it's whether it's the greed of UEFA and FIFA, kind of better the devil you know, or whether you look to, the riches promised by Florentino Perez and A22, the company behind the Super League. I think my own gut feeling is, I think no Premier League clubs, no Super League. I just don't think it will have the draw that the Super League would have if Premier League clubs are involved in it. So the fact that we're almost certain to see no Premier League clubs breaking away to join the Super League, I think you can have a European Super League without the Premier League in it. I just think they are the clubs. This is where the money is. This is where the eyes of the world are. But look, as I said, we will go through it in detail, bit by bit. Drago said, waiting for an official statement from FSG. They surely can't have the balls to say yes to it again. So James Pearce has posted out to say that Liverpool have no plans on joining this new Super League, that they plan on sticking with the format the current way that they have it. And that's my understanding of things as well. I don't expect, I'm not sure if we'll see a statement or not about it, but I certainly would have hoped that FSG learned their lesson. Because, I was very vocal the last time around the Super League. And I was very vocal about that being the bridge too far for me with FSG. And that was the thing that absolutely destroyed my trust in FSG. So if there's even a modicum of interest from them in this, I'm going to be fuming about it, because you would have thought, as pointed out, that we learned our lessons. They learned their lessons. Footballing world learned their lessons. The fans had spoken. It's very often we were divided as football fans, but this subject brought us all together. Whether you were a United fan, a Chelsea fan, a Liverpool fan, a City fan, a Spurs, it doesn't matter. Everybody spoke out in unison against this breakaway Super League, because we like tradition. We like the way things are. Now, both parties have gone away and rethought this a little bit. Obviously, we'll go through the announcement now in a moment from the new Super League foundations, and we'll look at it from the UEFA side as well. So let's get stuck into it. I feel like we've given it long enough now. I'm going to go through some graphics on screen for you guys, giving you a bit of an update on where we are and what you can expect. So first of all, let me get the graphics up so you guys can have a read. Right, so the new Super League proposal looks a little something like this. It is going to be a three-tiered system initially for men, with 64 teams in the men's competition in that three-tiered system, and there will be 32 teams in the women's version of the competition. All games will be free to air. Now that is, I guess, a big selling point from this new Super League. They will have their own streaming platform, their own service called Unify, that they will be able to stream all these games live on, every single one of them, as well as some other interactive facts, figures and statistics. Now, my first question, I guess, on this, guys, is how do you have all of this content, all of this football, all of these players, the money, the riches involved, and make it free? You would have to imagine that there's a catch there somewhere, right, on that app or on that streaming service. Next up, the new guarantee is... Oh, what's going on with the sound? That better? That better? Connor had 2 audio scenes in. We back? We good? Sorry. I'll start that again. We'll go through all this again. My apologies. I didn't realise there was a second audio source added. Sorry. We'll go through it again. So, the new Super League proposal, my friends, looks a little something like this. It will be a 3-tiered system initially, with 64 men's teams in it and 32 women's teams. All games will be free to air on a streaming platform called Unify, which is a streaming platform that is being made to show all of these games, and every single one of these games is apparently going to be live and free. And that's where my first question comes. How do you do that? How do you guarantee all this money and the riches that come along with the Super League and then do it for free? Something doesn't sit right, but I don't know the answer to that yet. Next up, there will be no permanent places. Nobody will be guaranteed their place in this new Super League. Spots will be decided, according to the press release today, on sporting merit. So, UEFA are also reportedly considering ditching the new Champions League format. Now, I've got to say, reportedly, it was posted today by a couple of people on social media. Transfer News Live posted UEFA, breaking news, UEFA plans to abandon the new format of the Champions League to stay with the current format. Now, we can't confirm this yet, but it makes sense to me if UEFA are considering ditching it. The only problem there is we do have to consider what will happen to the extra places. It's gone from a 32-team competition with UEFA to a 36, but we'll get into that in more detail. But most importantly today, a court ruled that UEFA rules blocking the formation of such a competition were contrary to EU law. Now, I have more to go through, but I just wanted to give you the basics of it in those bullet points. So again, for those coming in today, judges in Luxembourg said that UEFA's rules blocking the formation of such competition were contrary to EU law. So that is what Florentino Perez and A22 were hoping to do here. They were hoping to get that ruling, and people will say that this is a knock to UEFA and FIFA, perhaps, but it also gives them some clarification. So I'm going to move on to some more graphics now, because there's more information that we need to have before we have this conversation. So bear with me. The next bit of information I have for you guys is this. The new Super League proposal will look like this. I mentioned it being a three-tiered system. Tier 1, they're going to call the Star League. Tier 2 will be the Gold League, and Tier 3 will be the Blue League. Now, I don't know where on earth they came up with these stupid names, but Star League, Gold League and Blue League sounds like something you'd name a junior infants class if you were trying to get them in order to behave. Group games will be played midweek from September to April, coinciding with domestic leagues. The Women's Super League will initially be a two-tiered system. So, as you can see, it looks pretty much like a Champions League, Europa League and Europa Conference League format. It looks like you will have the top division, which they're calling Star League, which will be the Champions League, the mid-tier, the Gold League, which will be the Europa League, basically, and then the Europa Conference League, which will be the Blue League. Don't know why they came up with blue, by the way. But there's one more important piece of information I want to bring you guys before we get stuck into the chat. So it is this last slide here. Most importantly, who on earth are A22 Sports Management, the company behind the Super League? A22 Sports Management was the company formed by Barcelona, Real Madrid and Juventus to sponsor and push the legislation for the new European Super League. Juventus withdrew from the European Super League in 2023, leaving just Barcelona and Real Madrid, along with A22, championing the formation of a new European competition. A22 CEO is Bernd Reichart, and he's been the face of the company and will announce all the plans for future competitions. Now, you've probably seen the video today. If you haven't, have a search for it yourself. It is out there, and it's not very long. It's a couple of minutes long, and it breaks down the information that I've given you there. So, firstly, any questions? That's where we're at first. Anybody in the chat got any questions or anything on that they think needs to be resolved? We'll get into the legalities of all this in a moment, because we do have some notes from the judges as well today in their ruling. They were very strong in their ruling. Real Madrid want it badly. They updated their stadium for it. So look, what I think that you will notice is a lot of the clubs that are attracted to this proposal, a lot of the clubs that are still playing around with the idea of a Super League, are clubs that are in financial peril. Barcelona, they are 450 or so million or million euro in debt. So it's no surprise to me to see Juan Laporta back in this project, because he's a big financial hole to get out of. Florentino Perez has been the catalyst that drives this all along. It's his idea. But it's a battle for hearts and minds, really. You're going to have A22 Sports Management and the Super League pitching you their side. You're going to have UEFA and FIFA pitching you their side. But most importantly, we need to understand what drives this. It isn't the good of football. It is money. It is greed. Whichever side you're on. I say this about UEFA and FIFA. I say this about A22 Sports Management. None of this is for the betterment of fans. None of this is for the betterment of the sporting experience for us fans. But I can't get past the idea of A22 and the Super League being able to stream everything for free. Nothing in life comes free. There's always going to be a catch. So how can we have a world where Real Madrid, Liverpool, Manchester United, whoever, are trying to pay their superstars big money to keep them at their clubs, and they need that television revenue? Television revenue has driven all of this. Television revenue has driven the growth of the Premier League. The revenue rights that have been sold around the world have been what's made the Premier League the most powerful league in the world. So how on earth can a company do it for free? It's like going back free to air. You would imagine there's going to be some catches in there, whether it's a whole load of advertising, pop-ups or something. Nothing in life comes for free. So my first question would be, how on earth are they doing that? How are they going to be able to deliver something that UEFA and TV companies around Europe have had to pay big money for? And that's the right to broadcast the big games in Europe, the top players at the elite level. It doesn't seem feasible to me, but there must be a plan. The downside is they haven't really announced what that plan is. They've just said it's going to be free. No other details yet that I've seen, and I think the devil's always in the detail with these things. They'll give you the glossy sales pitch at the start. They'll tell you everything's great and shiny, but there's always something. There's always a catch. JC Galvanil said, I just got here, can you go over everything again? Lol, joking, I'll watch the replay. I will go through it in a while, mate, but I want to read you out a ruling that came in from the judges in Luxembourg. It said, the FIFA and UEFA rules on prior approval of inter-club football competitions, such as the European Super League, are contrary to EU law, meaning they are against EU law. They go on to say that new breakaway competitions were potentially entering the market, and that the game's historic governing bodies must ensure that their powers were transparent, objective, and non-discriminatory and proportionate. It should not, in short, punish those who wish to sign up for rival competitions. The report went on to say that the powers of FIFA and UEFA are not subject to any such criteria. FIFA and UEFA are therefore abusing a dominant position. So basically the crux of this is it's anti-competitive in EU law. UEFA and FIFA have a monopoly over European football, and that is breaching the EU's anti-competition rules. Simple as that, really. And it's interesting because this is the first real challenge in my lifetime to FIFA and UEFA's dominance of the governing of European football. And I don't know how this plays out. I don't know legally how this goes in the long run. Today was one step in the process, but there is still a very long way to go. The Premier League clubs that I've seen today in unison have all come out so far, be it directly or indirectly, to say that they have no plans to join this. But also, there's another question that needs to remain. The two clubs that are still in the Super League project, Real Madrid and Barcelona, the question that keeps coming up today is, will they take the other 10 clubs that pulled away from the Super League but did sign that binding agreement? Will they take them to court? Will they look to hold them to account, either financially or legally, for ditching the project? So I don't know the definitive answer to that, but the general consensus from what I've been able to see today is that will be counterintuitive to what they want to do. So if they hold all the other 10 clubs legally responsible for signing that binding agreement, it basically means they're never going to work together. You know, it basically drives a bigger wedge between them, and any possibility they have of smoothing this over and winning hearts and minds down the line would be very much thrown into the consignment of history because they take them to court. So I don't know what happens there either. But this is just the start of what I think is a pretty long process. But before I go to the chat and ask you for more of your opinion and we get into the transfer stuff, I just want to say this. Whatever you think or whatever you feel about the Super League, the Premier League, the Champions League or European competition, one thing that I feel as a football fan over the past 2 years is the sport has started to be made grubbier, dirtier. We've seen the stuff at Manchester City, with Chelsea and their financial situation, with the breakaway of the Super League. The sport has been dragged from pillar to post. And then you've got the changing of the rules, you've got VAR, you've got what the handball rule is. At some point, surely somebody has to say, calm down, leave it alone. Football is perfectly fine as it is. Everybody seems to be in a rush to change everything. And I don't know about you guys, but I watched a couple of games this week in the Carabao Cup, I watched the Chelsea-Newcastle game, and of course I watched Liverpool against West Ham. And I got to say, I enjoyed having no VAR. I enjoyed knowing that when the flag went up, that was it. Decision was made, we get back on with it. I enjoyed knowing when the referee goes to his pocket for a yellow card or gives a free, that's the end of it. Do you know what else I enjoyed? I enjoyed celebrating those 5 Liverpool goals, knowing that I only had to wait the 3 or 4 seconds to see if the linesman puts the flag up or not. And when it doesn't go up, we're free to celebrate. I enjoyed that. And I'm sick of football being dragged from pillar to post and things being changed. And it's always pitches for the good, for the betterment of the game. It's not. It's for money. It's always for money. So can somebody please grow a pair, step up and protect the sport? Somebody, whether it's the FA, UEFA, FIFA, somebody has to have a conscience and actually give a shit about the sport. Leitef Tope, FSG's long-term strategy will pay off with FFP. If it does, we're in a very good position. If what FFP was supposed to be ever comes to fruition, I do agree with you. We are in a very good place with the owners we have to benefit from that. But if it doesn't, then FFP is going to probably force FSG to have to have a change of direction. If it's a free-for-all, we've got to rethink things. But again, and that's before we even get into that, by the way. We haven't even talked about FFP yet. So we've got FFP, Super League, VAR, charges against City, charges against Chelsea. It's just grubby. It just looks shit. It looks like football is... It looks like football is just going away from sport and turning into an entertainment business. I hope you're well. If Liverpool announced Super League? No, Jack. There's been no word officially that I've seen yet from Liverpool Football Club. There was a post from James Pearce earlier on that says that Liverpool were sticking with the plans that they have, I believe. And we also have to confirm dates, by the way, for the League Cup semi-final. So in case you haven't seen this, the first leg at Anfield is going to take place on January the 10th, an 8 p.m. kickoff. The second leg at Craven Cottage will take place Wednesday, January 24th, again with an 8 p.m. kickoff. They don't care about anything other than money. I agree. See, this is going to be one of these few times where I think a lot of us agree on a lot of stuff. You know, we all have our opinions on how a team plays or how we should set up or what selection we should make. But ultimately, I think here we all agree. It's on greed. And I'm going to ask that in the chat. I'm going to put up the first poll tonight and just ask you, are all of these changes good, bad or indifferent about money? Cool. So, going to post this there for first poll of the night. Are all these changes just about greed? If you think differently, have at it. This is your forum. This is your place to say it. We'll leave that poll up for the length of the stream and we'll get stuck into it. Super League with Serie A and Spanish clubs, they just want it. German clubs don't. I don't think it's any coincidence that many of the clubs that are signing up for the Super League are clubs, or the clubs that have been linked with staying with the Super League, are clubs that are in financial peril. Clubs that need money, whether it's because their league isn't generating enough money, whether it's because the television revenues aren't there, whether it's because their presidents and their owners overspent, like in Barcelona's case. But also, I don't have much sympathy for Real Madrid and Barcelona in this because they've always had a dominant position in La Liga. They've always generated and had more money than other clubs. They've had it way too easy. And yet they still want to piss and moan because the Premier League is now financially stronger. I don't agree with that. I think that is just, I'm all right, Jack, pull up the ladder and sod the rest. Benjamin said, I'm very happy about the ruling. There's two conversations to have here. One, how did UEFA block the Super League development? And two, do people actually like UEFA? Would they be happy with another format? I dislike UEFA. I'm keen. So, I think you've raised some valid points, Benjamin. And I wouldn't be a fan of UEFA or FIFA either. I've got to be honest with you. I wouldn't. But I'm definitely not a fan of Florentino Perez and Juan Laporte. Definitely not. So for me, it's a case of better the devil you know. if I'm being honest with you, mate. That's where I'm at this moment in time. You know, we've got tradition, we've got history, sporting merit, and a system already in place with UEFA and the Champions League. But you're right, it is interesting to see this challenge to UEFA and FIFA's monopoly or their dominance of European football. So, lots of questions to be answered over the next few months. Barca had to get sponsored Spotify to get some cash, yes. Barca, look, as I said, I don't think it's an accident that a lot of the clubs that are still attached to this are ones that are struggling financially. Nessie said, Real and Barca are just crying because their El Clasico isn't as famous since Messi and Ronaldo left. Why can't we just enjoy football the way it is? Or why can't clubs just enjoy football the way it is? Said Ibad Imran. Mate, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. Everything's always pitched as being better for the good of. It's never about that, man. It's always about money and greed. And I'm with you. Very much so. Why can't we just leave stuff the way it is? Nothing wrong with the Champions League, Europa League and Europa Conference League. Nothing wrong with it. Now, I gotta be honest. My own opinion, if one thing comes from this, and that's that they ditch this stupid new Champions League format and go back to the old one, or stick with the one that we have, that's a win. That's a win for football fans, in my opinion. I don't like the new model of the Champions League. It seems unnecessarily complicated. So, for me, if that's all that happens from all this, is that UEFA decide to stick with the current Champions League format, which, by the way, has not been decided definitively, I'll take that as a win. Because I like it the way it is. I like the group stages. I like knowing who we're playing. It works. I don't get the need to change the format. Nothing in life stays constant. Nothing. I agree with you, Jamrock, but tell me another sport that's gone through as many changes as football over the last few years, mate. Any sport. Look at American sports, rugby. Nothing has gone through the amount of changes that football has on an annual basis. And at some point we have to say, whoa, slow down. Enough is enough. Because if we're going to go down, I'll give you an example, mate. If we're going to go down the VAR route and we're going to stick with VAR, well, then we have to have a real conversation about the laws of the game. And the laws of the game being rewritten or relooked at to coincide with and symbiotically sit alongside VAR and technology. But we ain't there yet. And we still have a system where in the Premier League, we have VAR and the lines being drawn. But in the top tier European competition, Champions League, we have the semi-automated system. So it looks weird when you've got different technology being used in different ways in different leagues. And it's not because of the financial restraints. It's not because the Premier League haven't got the money. So that's what does my head in. And the Premier League were the same with VAR. We were the last ones to introduce that from the big leagues. They waited and waited and waited. And even when we got it, they had their own version of it. So, for instance, who is sick of hearing the clear and obvious threshold? I'm sick of that. Because it's just a get out of jail free card for VAR not to tell the referee to do anything. What's clear and obvious? It's not defined. It has to be defined. If you're going to use technology, the rules have to play a huge part in being able to make it work, to fit. Don't try fix what's not broken, said King in the chat. NFL, that league sucks after the changes they made in this century, said Darth Cannabis. Jamrock said that's because those other sports have been making changes. American football has made a lot of changes. But I just used American football as one example, my friend. I can't think of another sport that's made as many changes in recent years. Alright, let me say this to you, mate. You and I and many people in this chat will have been around football or watched football for most of our lives. Tell me what a handball rule is. It's one of the simplest things we should be able to say. And I'm afraid to say, at 42 years of age, with 34 years experience around football, at this moment in time, I don't know when the ball strikes a hand what's going to happen. And that's a basic thing. And we don't know. And not just we don't know, the pundits don't know, the professionals don't know, and it's still open to interpretation. And it changes every single season. So these are things I think are bigger problems in the game. Craig, football has gone a long way from grassroots in this country, spoiling the game big time. Some people say it was good for Sky to drive the game into the paying system. Many fans can't afford to watch. That's a very fair point, Charles. And that's one of the strongest pitches, I guess, that this new Super League and A22 Sports Management have, is that they're going to say they're going to deliver the game back to the people. You know, you're going to be able to watch it without having to pay a subscription. And that is a big pitch. But until we know the details of it, I would say tread carefully. But you are right, mate. I grew up in a time where you've got football on TV. You had it on UTV or ITV, or you had it on BBC. But yeah, you are absolutely spot on. With the implementation of Sky, everything's gone crazy. I know it's Sky, DAZN, BT, Amazon, and the list goes on and on. Peacock in America, ESPN Plus, all this stuff. You're right, it's crazy and we're being fleeced. But has it got better? That's my question. Has football got better with all of these changes? Totally agree, Craig. Wish we could go back to no VAR. I so enjoyed the League Cup games this week with no VAR. And honestly, I disagreed with one or two of the linesmen's decisions. I thought that one of the offside calls against Darwin, I thought he was on. But you know what? I knew it was over with. And it felt much more at ease to just go, yeah, fuck it, let it go. Paul, thank you, mate. That's really kind of you. Thank you so much for your super sticker, dude. I want to take a second to say a big thank you to you all. So I said this somewhat yesterday, and I'm going to get into the transfer news now in a sec, so please stick with us because there's a lot to go through there as well. I want to say thank you to you guys because yesterday was the culmination of 3 days where my head was all over the shop. I felt like I let you guys down with the Manchester United stream. I felt like I let Liverpool fans down, and I felt like I showed myself in a bad light. And it got to me. I wanted to quit. I didn't want to do that stream yesterday. I wanted to run, hide under the covers, and just get away from it all because it got in my head. But I thought about it and I said, no, I owe them more than this. You know, I owe these people an explanation. I owe them honesty and sincerity. So I came in last night and I tried to explain with the stream, and the way that which you guys supported me is something I'll never forget. I underestimated you again, and that's on me. Yes, there are people who are disappointed and pissed off at me, and I get that. But the majority of you reached out, whether it be in here or privately, and you helped me more than you'll ever know. And I owe you that. And thank you for that again. Because I can't promise I won't say stupid stuff again. I can't promise I won't be over the top in a reaction. But I can promise that I'll always try to do my best for you, and I'll always try to be honest and sincere with you because you are with me and you deserve that. So thank you for your support on what's been a really tough week. But I'm not looking for sympathy. It's been a tough week of my own making. Benjamin said football has gone backwards since the dodgy Russians came in. Now I'm just reading a super chat out here, dude. I'm not trying to cast aspersions. It's a valid point on sports changing. Look at the salary cap in rugby. It's broken the clubs. Another question to be had is, would regulation help or hinder? It depends. Like, we can talk about regulation and we can talk about all that kind of stuff, but they need to have the power to enforce the rules. We all know of regulators that are just there for show. You know, they don't have any bite. They don't have any real weight behind what they're saying or doing. So unless the regulators have the power to actually enforce what they judge, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be an answer or not. And again, thank you for all the lovely stuff in the chat as well. Thank you. You're really kind. Right, let's get stuck into some transfer talk for a little bit. And if needs be, we'll go back at the end, go back over all this again. So David Ornstein was speaking about Liverpool's transfer business and particularly in this moment about Andre. So he said, when Liverpool found themselves trying to strengthen at number 6 and various options were looked at and explored, a call was made about the availability of Andre Trinidad. So Liverpool put that call in to Fluminense. It didn't work out for either party at that time. And David goes on to say, which removes him from the agenda now. So David Ornstein fully believes, and I want to, shout out to Anfield Talk here as well, by the way. It was their Twitter account which posted this quote, so I want to give them their credit. David Ornstein believes that Liverpool aren't interested in Andre. Move on to Polina, and still with David Ornstein, he said, Liverpool believe their midfield is in good shape and their normal profile would be different to that of Polina. And one last piece from Mr. Ornstein. João Polina has been linked, but nothing is expected to emerge on this. Liverpool believe their midfield is in good shape and their normal profile will be different to the Portuguese international, who is 28 and has a steep anticipated transfer fee. So, I don't know if Liverpool aren't interested in Polina because of the money, the age, but it looks like we shouldn't be expecting anything from a defensive midfield position in January. That's what I'm taking from what I'm reading today. That I wouldn't be holding our breath for a defensive midfielder to come in. Latif, thank you for your super sticker. Nessie, thank you for your super chat. Said, love this community. Love you, Craig. Keep going. Thank you. Love you guys too, as you know. Sincerely, thank you. More stuff. Again, David Ornstein's been a busy boy, but he does give us a little bit of hope, though, Mr. Ornstein. He said things can change and Liverpool are always attentive to openings that may crop up, e.g. Cody Gakpo last winter. But the forthcoming window is not anticipated to be a particularly busy one. Despite a perception that Jurgen Klopp's men still lack something, there seems to be no sense of internal alarm. Things can change and Liverpool are always attentive to openings, but the forthcoming window is not anticipated to be busy. So, sometimes in these things you read between the lines and make up your own mind, right? What I hear is that our owners are cheapskates. That's what I see and take from that. I've got to be honest with you. It's not that João Polina isn't good enough. It's not that João Polina wouldn't come in and be able to do a job. And I do not and will not be able to get my head around why Andre was one of the answers in the summer, but he isn't available. Now he is available and he's not the answer. Because Endo's not the answer. Not long term. I mean, certainly Mr. Wataru Endo deserves credit for improving and is improving. But I still feel we aren't ready to win the league yet with this squad. We can win it, but I don't think we're giving ourselves the best chance to win it if we don't dip into the market in January. We won't sign anyone this window more than likely, said Declan. Your owners could spend way more. You're a giant in the footballing world. Absolutely. Absolutely we could. And that's what makes it more than infuriating for most of us, dude. We're not even in danger of FFP. Like, I keep saying this to you guys, but the number that Premier League and UEFA are trying to get clubs to stay below is 70% of expenditure on wages. We're at about, and this moves all the time, but we're at about 62, 63% last time I knew. So we're way below the threshold for what they want. And remember, that 70% isn't like set in stone. That's their goal, to get clubs to 70%. At the moment, there are clubs who are way above that. And we're down at 62, 63% of turnover. So there's wiggle room there. No DM, no Premier League, simple as that, and I'm bored of this, says Mahmood. Mate, I say it every window. Where's the money, John? Where's the money? Because nobody with a right mind could think Liverpool's squad is complete. Nobody. Whether you're the most hardcore match-going fan, whether you're Johnny from Timbuktu or you're Craig from Galway, it doesn't matter. We see deficiencies in the squad. We know they're there. And Jurgen knows they're there. Arsenal are going to go out and strengthen. Manchester City could well go out and strengthen. I want to win the league. I'm sure you good people want to win the league as well. So I don't get the cheapskate attitude yet again. And more than others, we probably have examples of why it's wrong for us to roll the dice. May I present to the court Arthur Mello? May I present to the court Ben Davies and Ozan Kabak? They didn't exactly turn our fortunes around, did they? And that was the cheap option yet again. And I want to move on to talk about Jurgen in a few minutes, because he was a bit tetchy towards the atmosphere at Anfield and sounded out a bit of a warning shot ahead of the weekend's game against Arsenal. And I want to move on to talk about that in a few minutes' time. But beforehand, can we agree on one thing? We all love Jurgen. He's the man we want to manage the club. We love him to bits. But he's not perfect. And if we can admit that first part, then the next part of this conversation, I think, is easier. Klopp gets it wrong, and has gotten it wrong before. And will get it wrong again, because he's human. And that's okay. But I don't like when he gets snotty towards the fan base and says things like, we're kids who want a new Ferrari at Christmas. No, we want to fucking win. Excuse my language there. I'm trying to keep it to a minimum, but we want to win. And I don't get who he's trying to win over or what he's trying to prove by saying things like, tell me a midfielder that could improve on Oxlade-Chamberlain, the players that we had last time he came out with that spiel. It's nonsense. And when he came out and said, tell me a club that wants to sell a top centre-half in January, that too is nonsense. It's nonsense. You put enough money down if you want the player and you'll get an answer. You'll get some interest. Nobody wants to lose their best players, even if it's the summer. They don't. But some clubs, unfortunately, have to sell. Some clubs have to take the money in because it's part of their business model. And in the Premier League, we're a little bit fortunate that we're not really bullied into selling players a lot of the time. But there are clubs on the continent that are there to be bullied. And it's a competitive business. I want us to bully them. I want Liverpool to be going, yeah, short of a few bob, are you? How about we take your centre-back off your hands and give him X or Y? I don't understand the attitude. And I don't understand the attitude towards the fan base at times because I feel it's uncalled for. Look, there's, like when I talk about Jurgen's free to give constructive criticism of the fan base. Of course he is. But there are ways and means to do it. So I was frustrated with Darwin and Mo. I said what I said. People had a pop at me. I get that. I took it on the chin. I listened. But I don't feel like Jurgen sometimes... I don't feel like he's ruthless. And that's the one thing I feel like has let him down at Liverpool occasionally, is his not over-dependence, but his loyalty to players who haven't perhaps shown that same levels of loyalty back. A lot of them have. Of course they have. Our boys have been amazing. But there have been times where I've just been scratching my head going, what is he talking about? And this centre-back scenario is one of those. Matip's out. His contract's up. I get the club may want to stand by him. I get the club will want to do the right thing. And we should help Joel's rehab. Of course we should. But you can't tell me that a 32-year-old, 33-year-old next season centre-back who's out of contract and has done his ACL is a smart business decision to renew. It isn't, because we don't know what way he's going to come back and we don't know if he'll ever be the same player again. Look at Virgil van Dijk. Similar age, had an injury 2 years beforehand, and he admitted himself, it took him nearly 18 months to start trusting his body again. And that's Virgil van Dijk. So sometimes I just scratch my head and just think, why? Why? Yes, treat Joel with dignity and respect, but go out and get a player. We need a player. Mark, thank you for gifting a membership. FSG should be able to do both, but if you had to pick, would you prefer a CDM this January and maybe throw your plans, i.e. by Cecic, or selling the house next season for Mbappe rather than probably win again? So I can understand the defensive midfield position if he thinks the answer is Trent. If he thinks we can get through this season and move Trent into midfield permanently, with McAllister, by Cecic maybe coming back and Thiago, I think we can get by. But the defensive situation worries me a lot. We've got bodies for midfield. I do think between the variations of the way we set up, the fluidity of some of the players like McAllister, like we can play 3-4 different people in the number 6. Doesn't mean they're the best solution to that number 6. But if the club truly believe by Cecic is that long-term answer and Endo can do a job, I'm okay with that. But I'm not okay with running short of bodies at centre-back. I'm not okay with not having enough cover at full-back. They're things that we need to resolve and we need to sort. And I think burying our head in the sand, Like, let's say the worst comes to the worst and Virgil picked up an injury. Virgil does his muscle and he's out for 8 weeks. We've got Canade, we've got Joe Gomez, and we've got Jarell Kwanzaa to try and win us the Premier League, to try and win us the Europa League. And with all due respect to 3 very good defenders, you can't tell me that we're not going to be short there. You can't tell me that we're not going to be able to fully compete on all the fronts that we have left. It just feels an unnecessary risk. Do you think Leroy Sané joins Liverpool? Not a hope in hell. 1, I don't know about his attitude. 2, he would frustrate the living hell out of us because he's very, very up and down. And his age bracket as well. I don't want Sané. But do you know what? Joshua Kimmich is going to be available because Bayern Munich have decided not to give him a new deal, according to reports coming out of Germany. So if you're going to lose Thiago Alcantara in the summer, why not make a play for Joshua Kimmich in the summer? If Bayern don't want to give him a new deal, there's obviously a deal to be had there. And he could fill that void that Thiago did, that experience in there, that proven winner. And I bet you he ends up at Manchester City. I bet you Calvin Phillips gets moved on and they end up signing him in the summer. And it will be a clever signing. Namon, welcome to Anfield Agenda FC. I keep saying we need to bring in new defenders. Our defenders are mostly getting too old. We need young blood coming through for the defence. So, Charles, I think we've got very little middle ground defensively. We've got a young Canade who's 22, something like 23. We've got Joe Gomez who's I think 25, 26. So in and around the younger bracket. You've got Verge who's up here, and then we've got young Jarell Kwanzaa who's 20 years of age and definitely a great future ahead of him. But, another 25, 26-year-old centre-back wouldn't go astray for me. Even 24. Do you think Man City will rejoin the Super League to avoid punishment? So this is an interesting point, Josh. And I can't lie to you, dude. It did cross my mind earlier on. What if the Premier League throw the book at Manchester City? And what if Manchester City were to be banned from entering European competitions via the Premier League, let's say? Is there a world out there where they run off and join this new breakaway Super League and maybe don't have the same rules or focus or pressures on them? I don't know the answer to it, but it's an interesting question that you've raised. Do you mind going back over the Super League story? I will absolutely do it in a few minutes, Padraig. No problem, mate. I just want to go through everything else I have here on my list, and then no problem. Remind me in about 15 minutes and I'll go through it all again for you. Mark sending a super chat, say happy holidays everyone, we love you all. Thank you, Mark, you're very kind. And yeah, whether you celebrate Christmas or not, I hope you've got a wonderful time ahead of you. I hope you're spending some time with your family. I hope that you're all safe, well, and your families are safe. And special shout out to Mike from one of our moderators from our Discord group. Don't want to give away his family information, but somebody's been poorly in his family recently, and we got some good news on that from Mike today. And I just want to extend our warm wishes, Mike, to your family at this very difficult time, pal. And know that we're all here for you should you need any Craig humour or anything in the super chat. If you need JC to talk about his nuts again in the super chat, mate, we're here for you. But much love, and it was lovely of you to give us that positive update today, mate. Thank you. Would you give Thiago a new contract? Absolutely not. No way. No, I don't care if he is the best player in the Premier League for the second half of the season. I couldn't, because we know the disappointment's coming. Like, nobody's going to sit here and say Thiago Alcantara isn't amazing when he's on the pitch or when he's fit. But at the same time, we don't want more injury crisis. And, it's been a tough last year. Did I miss a super chat? Sorry, I'm scrolling back to one I think. I did miss one. I apologise. So 2 super chats I have to go back through. Benjamin said, I noticed with Klopp when something has gone on behind the scenes, he gets snotty. I won't be surprised if something comes out soon about the club's owners. He does seem a little bit tetchy at the minute, Benjamin. And I'm going to move on to talk about the atmosphere at Anfield in a second. Andrew Wright, thank you, sir, for your super chat. Say, Craig, what's the difference between 1992 and the new Champions League, Club World Cup, UEFA and FIFA and the Premier League of brainwashed fans? So, 1992, you're right to raise that. That was the first breakaway where the Premier League was formed. We also had a change in Champions League to the Champions League from the European Cup. The idea of the FIFA Club World Cup thing, it's pure and simple. It's they want some of that European money. That's it. They've seen how powerful and how much the Champions League generates, but it only generates that money for UEFA, and it does it every single year. So they've looked at it and gone, well, we only have the World Cup every 4 years. FIFA needs some of this money. So they've tried to shoehorn in this new Club World Cup starting from 2025, and it's all about money again. And my question and everyone's question is, how are you fitting another summer tournament into the calendar? How is that going to benefit the players? Like, I don't agree with Bernardo Silva on a lot of things, but every single word that he said in his press conference over in Saudi was spot on. We're going to get a watered down version of these games. Look at Liverpool, Manchester. No, you know what? Not even go to that. Look at the Champions League final last season and tell me that was two sides at the peak of their powers and we got the best version of both. They looked exhausted. They looked absolutely worn out on that pitch, Inter Milan and Manchester City. And we didn't get the best event. That wasn't the pinnacle of football. And it should be. So what's going to happen when you introduce another summer tournament and people have even less time to recuperate? Like, again, I hate to keep bringing up American sports, but one thing that they do get right is the off-season. If you've got an injury and you need 10, 12 solid weeks, or you've an operation you want to do in rehab, you don't get the chance to do it properly in European football. You don't get the chance to really heal. You're just going on empty. And with the World Cup being changed to a winter tournament, and probably going to happen again when it's in Saudi, although there is talk of it maybe being a summer one, and this new Club World Cup, somebody again has got to think of the players. And in thinking of the players, they also have to think of the fans, because they'll hide behind wanting to grow the game. But they're running these lads into the ground. And I know it's hard to have sympathy for millionaires, but there are boys. There are players. They're the ones that we support week in and week out. They're the ones we want to see performing at their best. But they can't do that 365 days a year. They need to have a rest. What else is there? I think I've caught up on all them. Cool. Piero Nkapia should join Liverpool. So, Jessica, there was an article the other day that said he's going to be available if somebody wants to pony up €70 million for Nkapia. And I don't think Liverpool are going to pony up €70 million in January for a defender. So, do you know what I have seen today, though, and I will go through it in a second again, is more stuff around Gonzalo Inacio. And even, I think it was Fabrizio said today that if Liverpool do want to get him, they're going to have to pay the €60 million release clause, which would just be the height of stupidity when we could have had him last year. So if we're all admitting that our owners are cheapskates, why is spending 20 million quid a year later good business? It would be stupid. But let's talk about Klopp and the atmosphere for a minute, because what he had to say today, I understand in one sense. He wants the atmosphere to be banging on Saturday. But you have to have it two ways. You cannot create an atmosphere that is what Anfield is on its best without having something coming back from the pitch. So look at the Manchester United game. It was flat all around, but the performance on the pitch was more flat. And Klopp was talking about needing the fans and needing the fans to get behind the team in that moment. The team gave nothing back there. And I get Klopp says that they were tired, and I get what he says, but ultimately, we were too passive, we were too respectful, and the audience, in my opinion, needs to feed off what happens on the pitch. So Klopp said he doesn't want it to be because Arteta has a spat on the sideline, or because of a crunch and that's the way football is. That's the way the English game has always been, and particularly that's the way Liverpool has always been. You can't get up for Bournemouth at 12:30 on a Saturday and think that atmosphere in any way, shape or form is going to be the same as Inter Milan at Anfield on a European night. It just isn't. So I get what Klopp's trying to do. I don't know the answer to the atmosphere at Anfield. The atmosphere sometimes seems to be give all the tickets to locals because, they know everything. I don't know. Not to say that's not the answer in some way. I do agree. I seen the Spirit of Shankly come out with a statement today that said they'd like to see a pathway for younger people to get into the Kop or to get into Anfield to build up that next generation. And I do think there's valid points there as well. But ultimately, if Klopp wants the atmosphere, then he gets the boys fired up. If those boys are fired up and they come out and get stuck into Arsenal from the off, he'll get his atmosphere. It needs to be a two-way thing. So what do you guys think about what Klopp said today? Do you think he was right to call out Anfield and the crowd? Or do you think, like somebody in the chat suggested earlier on, that maybe there's something going on that he's a bit touchy about? I don't know. That could very well be the case. Does Liverpool have a statement for the Super League? Not that I've seen yet, Thomas, no. There's been no official word that I've seen put out yet from Liverpool around the Super League. He was right, said Bora Bora. Mo Salah said he was right. I agree with him. We need to be rocking on Saturday, said Blair's video channel. Klopp loves going for Bundesliga players and transforming them into absolute machines. That's a bit of a sidetrack. He was right, it was dead. But why was it dead? I don't think anyone's going to disagree about the atmosphere being flat for the United game. I think we can take that as a given that we'll all agree on that. But why was it flat? It's a fair, this isn't like me a smart art. This is a genuine question. Why was it flat? Because you would think on the face of it, 4:30, Sunday, Anfield, fiercest rival, a chance to put them to the sword, a chance to go back top of the Premier League. It is an odd one that the atmosphere wasn't great. Jason Bean said Anfield was like crickets for United, better for West Ham. Lots of complaints about the crowd. The United game atmosphere started off pretty good, said Namon. It was the slow-paced tempo that ruined it. If we pressed and played the way we did against United, it would have been pumping. I truly believe that as well. And that's what I keep saying. I understand what Jurgen is saying. But it has to come from the pitch as well. The atmosphere can't be forced. English football has never been one of these, maybe South America or perhaps in the Bundesliga where you've got a rhythmic music or a drum going through the game and people are bouncing, singing all the way. That's atmosphere and it's good, but it's not intimidating. Intimidating atmospheres come from a bear pit atmosphere, a vitriol, anger, frustration, and that's a living, breathing thing that sometimes, like Klopp said, does take Mikel Arteta to say something stupid on the sideline or Andy Robertson to chase Leo Messi the length of the pitch and put in a crunching tackle. Sometimes that's what's needed to get the crowd up, but it has to be a two-way thing. The crowd need to respond to the pitch, and of course the pitch need to respond to the crowd. Are the fans bored? I mean, look, the lazy answer with the atmosphere is always to blame tourists. Always. Every time I see this conversation, the only answer you ever see is it's all the locals, it's all the tourists, they're there taking pictures, they don't know the songs, they're not da-da-da-da. And some of it is that. So, of course that's a part of it. But I will ask the same question I always ask. Who's supplying them with the tickets? Who's selling the tickets to get them onto the Kop? It's season ticket holders or travel agents or touts. So you got to look at who's putting those tickets up for sale. Are they season ticket holders who are just creaming off the club? If that's the case, should they be stripped away? I understand that certain sections of a stadium should be for the hardcore fans. The Kop should be full of match-going season ticket holders. I think that's a fair assumption. Everybody wants to experience the Kop. Of course we do. I've been lucky enough to be on the Kop many times. But I do think there's something to it. And I also think there's something to the Kop being a younger person's area. So whether you're a 16, 17 to 24, 25-year-old boy or girl and you want to be on the Kop, I think that makes more sense. I know as a 42-year-old man, my days of being in a terrace or on a Kop like that are over. I would much rather be sitting on the halfway line, looking down from a nice elevated position and comfortable and singing. But also, this is something else that doesn't get spoken about enough. A lot of you guys will have been to Anfield. Now tell me, have you ever been told to shut up? Or have you ever been shushed? Or have you ever been told to sit down? Because I can tell you I have. I can tell you people I know who have. If you're in a main stand, I was in the first row of the King Kenny stand for Liverpool versus Spurs. And it was 1-1, the game. Kane scored for Spurs. And I got up and said something to the linesman. I think I called him a shithouse or something. And I had a parent sitting beside me with 2 young kids who asked me to tone down the swearing. And of course I respect her viewpoint. But also, I'm at a game of football and I'm trying to get in the linesman's head. And I'm trying to, do what you do as a fan. And sometimes you need to realise that there are some older, potentially crankier people inside that stadium as well who, don't really lean into the singing in certain aspects or certain areas of the stadium. I think that needs to be spoken about as well. They sell tickets to local supporters in general sales who put you in the top corners of the main stand. That's not great either. I get, yeah, that's fair, Paul. I know that there's cheaper tickets for younger people, I think, or locals who are put in the top corners of the stand. You're right. There should be, in my opinion, and I don't know how they would do this, but I've always spoke about an unreserved section in the Kop where, let's say, block 306 is unreserved. So there's a block of seats there, and you go in, and if you've got mates in there, you can move it around, sit in different positions. You need to be able to have groups of friends going to these games, groups of like-minded people that know each other, and I don't know how they do that, but that's what I think would help. It's difficult. It is difficult, and it always ends up in fans pointing the finger at each other and blaming each other, which never ever is beneficial. It just causes a bigger divide, and nobody wants that. I'd love a Super League, said Jensk, always hungry at night. I can give you a Super League, Jensk. It won't be free though. I got knocked down, but then I got up again. But you're never going to keep me down, Butterbean man, or Better Island man. I'd be fuming if someone told me to shut up at a football match, said them on. I've been to Anfield once, was in the Kop. Everyone stood up the whole time. Nobody was asked to quiet down. That's the Kop. That's the anomaly. The Kop is, I've been there as well a lot of times. You're right, not much sitting down going on in the sections I was in, but I was all right with that. If you want a better seat, pay more money. I don't understand how that solves the atmosphere problem, though. That's just you being a smart arse in the chat again. I don't see how that solves or adds to the atmosphere. Like, here's an example. Has any of you ever been able to get 10 tickets together in Anfield for a game with your mates? Or if you're local or not, I guess it doesn't really matter. But I think if you can get groups of people together, groups of like-minded people, it would add to the atmosphere. I don't know how you do it. I don't know if you go and have singing sections. I don't know the answer to it. How someone can shush people in a football stadium is absurd. It's like complaining about drunk people at the pub. Look, it's not just like, that was my one experience, but I've been told by so many people. They've been in a main stand, they've been trying to sing, and they've been looked at, or given evils, or told to shut up. It can't work both ways. Andreas, welcome to Anfield Agenda FC, mate. Right, I'm going to go back to the Super League stuff for those of you who were patient enough to wait with me. Before I do, just a quick one. Bobby Clark signed a new long-term deal with the football club. So congratulations to Bobby Clark on that one. Good news. And deserved as well. So well done, Bobby Clark. So right, we're going to go back over the Super League stuff. So bear with me. We'll start with the first one. Right, here we go. So the new Super League proposal looks like this. It's going to be a 3-tiered system, initially with 64 men's teams and 32 women's teams. All games will be free to air on a streaming platform called Unify. Now this is where my first big concern is. How do you get the top players in the world, the money that they're promising on a free streaming platform. And I have not seen the answer to this yet. So I would take that with a massive pinch of salt, because nothing is free. There will be no permanent places, and there will be spots decided on sporting merit. UEFA reported apparently in the news today, and it's not confirmed, so that's why I'm using the word reported, to be considering ditching the new Champions League model to stick with the old one in response to this. Now, we'll wait for confirmation or lack of confirmation on that. A court in Luxembourg today, 15 judges ruled that UEFA's rules blocking the formation of such a competition were contrary to EU law. The next part is the new Super League proposal, and the three-tiered system will look like this. Tier number 1, which you can think of as the Champions League, will be called the Star League. I mean, not very creative there, lads, but okay. Tier number 2, which will be the equivalent of the Europa League, will be called the Gold League. Again, not very creative, but we are where we are. And tier number 3 will be called the Blue League. Apparently, because they think of Everton and they think the Blues at the bottom of Everton, makes sense. No argument there, no feedback, you've got it right. The next one, group games will be played midweek from September to April and will coincide with domestic leagues. The Women's Super League will initially be a 2-tiered competition. So, who's behind the Super League and what do we need to know? So, A22 Sports Management are the company that was formed by Barcelona, Real Madrid and Juventus to sponsor and push the legislation for the European Super League. Juventus withdrew from the Super League earlier in 2023, leaving just Barcelona and Real Madrid, along with A22, championing the formation of a new European Super League. Now, A22 CEO Bernd Reichart has been the face of the company and is often pictured and posing with the new format. So, if you haven't, there is a 2-minute video or so announcing this new Super League. I would say have a watch of it, but it left me still with not enough detail. It feels like when they pitched the first Super League proposal, we got all this, well, this is happening, look at this, but no detail. So I want to know how they can stream the games for free, how the world will be able to watch this new competition without paying a penny. Where's the revenue going to come from? It feels to me like this is the carrot that will entice people, but the charges are going to come down the line. Because as I'm going to say again, nothing is free. Nothing on earth is free. And somebody is going to have to pay for this. And the somebody usually means the people, the fans, the viewers. So that's question number 1. Question number 2 is, what will happen with clubs that do go to join it? Will there be reprisal from UEFA and FIFA? Will they be kicked out of international competition? And then there was a very fair question that was asked from somebody in the chat about Man City, which also popped into my head. What happens if they do get found guilty of those charges with the Premier League? Will we perhaps see them run off to join this new Super League? I don't know the answer to that, but as of right now, I'm still not seeing enough detail in this project to think that it's anywhere near being ready to launch properly. I don't know when it's expected to start. I don't know what the legal end of this is going to be, because today, as I'm going to read out to you guys again, there was a ruling from the judges, and the judges were fairly stern. They said the FIFA and UEFA rules on prior approval of interclub competitions such as the Super League are contrary to EU law. It added that the new breakaway competitions were potentially entering the market and that the game's historic governing bodies must ensure that their powers were transparent, objective, non-discriminatory and proportionate. It should not, in short, punish those who wish to sign up for rival competitions. The report said, however, the powers of FIFA and UEFA are not subject to any such criteria. FIFA and UEFA are therefore abusing a dominant position. So basically, FIFA and UEFA hold all the laws of football, all the governing rules, all the toys. And if you want to play what we call football, then you have to go through them. And the EU court today has said that that's contrary to free trade in Europe. So what happens next? I don't think anyone knows the answer to that yet. But we are where we are. And as of yet, I've not seen an official statement from Liverpool, albeit I have seen stuff from journalists like James Pearce who say that Liverpool are staying as they are and have no plans to join the Super League. Water from a spring is free. Is it? How are you going to get that water back to your gaff? Unless you want to go to the spring every day and bathe yourself, drink and pollute the spring. How are you getting that water home? Because the thing you're going to put it in ain't going to be free. So, nothing's free. As most teams have rejected the Super League, and some will probably do it tomorrow, they'll make a league of 5. Well, there's been reports that there are a lot of clubs who are interested in this Super League. I'm just trying to see if I have my notes here to hand. 1 second, because I've seen a list of some clubs earlier on. 1 sec. So Bayern have rejected the Super League. United have rejected with a statement. Sevilla have rejected with a statement. So, reading this, no, that's from Atletico Madrid. I'm trying to find this statement at a list of the clubs that were interested in it. So I did see, I haven't got it to hand now, but I seen a list of clubs who were rumoured to be close to joining it. Where is this it? Nope. Sorry, I don't have the list here. I've got a question for you guys, and I don't know the answer to this, which is why I'm asking you. This Girona situation in La Liga, if they win La Liga and go into the Champions League, and Manchester City finish second in the Premier League and qualify for the Champions League, what happens? Because I believe, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to own 2 teams outright in the same competition anymore. And I don't know what happens there, because Manchester City, obviously, or the City Football Group, own both those clubs. So what happens if Girona win and finish, let's say, in a higher league position than Manchester City do in the Premier League? Which one takes precedent? Very good explanation. Thanks, Craig. My pleasure, Magnus. That's the only reason I didn't come on earlier with this, mate, is I wanted to try and gather as much information, get it into bullet points so we can put it up on the screen and share as much information as we had at this stage. So it's been a busy day behind the scenes. City steals the spot, said Mark. Girona might be exiled because they're less important. See, that's a weird one, isn't it? You're probably right. That is fully what I would expect to happen. But then my next question is, what's the point? So what's the point of City Football Group having this club, and if it wins La Liga, it can't take its place in the Champions League? How do you pitch that to Girona's fans? It feels like a very weird situation. City own 47% of the Girona, so it won't affect it. That's not what I'm... Let me have a look here. Sorry, I'm reading something. I'm not just going silent. Hang on. Maybe that is the answer, Oren. Maybe you're spot on, mate. Maybe the answer is that it won't affect it. I don't know. But I've seen a lot of people asking this question over the last day or two, and I didn't know the answer, which is why I asked you guys. Don't Leipzig and Salzburg both compete together? If I remember correctly, Trucci, they rejigged that. So I don't think technically Leipzig are Red Bull anymore. I think there's a change to the name of the company, if my memory's right. Super League would be good for Liverpool. Would it? I don't think it would. Myself, Dave. I think if FFP was enforced, that would be better for Liverpool with the type of owners we have now. But look, this is, to me, Dave, honestly, it's one of two evils, mate. I don't know which is better, the Super League project or UEFA and FIFA, because I got to be honest with you, mate, I don't have much trust in either. But at the moment, with the information to hand, I'm certainly in the better the devil you know camp. Project Girona is meant to replace City after FFP. See, imagine that, man. That would be so interesting. Like, imagine they do just turn Girona into the super club and La Liga are on board with it. That would be interesting. Is the Super League returning? Yes, Cody, but it's returning in that it passed its first legal test today in a Luxembourg court. But is it returning from the sense of our clubs are joining it? No. There's been no Premier League club that has indicated they are going to join the Super League at this moment in time. There's been big clubs like Bayern Munich and that who've said they've no interest. Atleti have no interest. United have no interest. Spurs, I think City, if I'm not mistaken. But as I sit here right now, I don't know of an official word from Liverpool on it. Yeah, RB in Leipzig stands for Rasenball Sport. So there we go. What do you think of Joe Bellingham? Honestly, mate, I've not watched enough of him to know. Like, I that's the truth. I don't watch Sunderland. I don't really watch the Championship. So I honestly haven't seen many minutes of Joe Bellingham on a football pitch to give you an answer. It's clear two teams with any partial ownership cannot compete against each other. I've talked about it a lot in the chat. No two teams with any partial ownership can... So even partial ownership, Martin. So in that scenario, Martin, let's say Nice qualify for the Champions League some year in France and Radcliffe owns 25% of Manchester United as well as owning all of Nice. What would happen there? Will they not be able to play against each other either in the European competition? This is a sincere question, mate. I'm not at all trying to be facetious. Who's my dream signing? Are we being realistic or can I just name anyone? Like right now, if you were naming anyone, I'd love Camavinga to drop into our DM spot. I think that would be amazing. I wouldn't say no to Mbappe. Wouldn't say no to Vinicius Jr. Wouldn't say no to Rafa Leao, although he still has a bit of fine-tuning left. What's going to happen on Saturday evening? Oh, yeah, let's talk about that. Before we finish up tonight, let's have a conversation about Arsenal. And I'm going to end this poll at the chat, actually. So we did ask you guys, are all these changes just about greed? And we've had nearly 1,500 votes and 85% of you guys have said, yes, the changes are about greed. So what do you think is going to happen on Saturday? So I've done my preview. It is up. I'll give you the score from it. I want you to go and watch it for the team selection if you get a chance. But I predicted a 3-2 Liverpool victory. So for me, I think this game is going to have goals and it's going to be decided one way or the other by just the one goal. That's what I feel. I can see a world that Arsenal can win. I can see a world that Liverpool win. I can see a world there's a score draw. But I think it'll live up to the billing. The game against Manchester United was frustrating. But I do feel like this game is going to live up to expectation. I think it's going to be an incredible atmosphere. I think Anfield will be right up for it. I think the players are going to be hyped for it. I hope that there's no silly red cards written in it because it's a damn good game between two great coaches with two great sets of players, two good sets of fans, and I'm really hyped for it. It's the biggest game of the season so far for me. A real top of the league 6-pointer. 50 ping Skiller. So what do you think of Nunes on the left wing? I prefer him there to the centre. I only kind of came to that conclusion last night when I was asked, but I think he's a bit more space to operate in a wide area than he does centrally. 4-2 to Liverpool's a keen core. BH26 at 3-2. Lee Toombs gone 4-3 Liverpool. 4-3 Liverpool. We'll go 3-1 down and come all the way back. Oh, Mario. Oh, dude, if that was the case, I can't guarantee I'd have all my clothes on. I can't. Like, if we went 3-1 down and won that game 4-3, oh my God. I'd probably be nudie in the front garden, mate. Oh, Jesus, I don't... Oh, God. One, I think my heart wouldn't be able to take it. I think I'd probably pass out somewhere. But, oh my days. I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about that. Basically decides the season and the title contender. I wouldn't go as far yet as to say it decides the season, but it will certainly lay down a marker for either club. Like, there's also a world where Villa end the weekend and Christmas on top of the Premier League. So if we draw with Arsenal and Villa win, they could be top of the Premier League at Christmas. So there is a lot on this game, not just for us and Arsenal, but in general. And whilst I don't agree that it will be a title decider, I do think whoever wins, if there's a winner, it lays down a big marker and builds confidence. Brett Young is going for a 3-2 Liverpool, an easy win versus a small team. I love it. I love it, Brett. Love that attitude, mate. Nothing wrong with it. Just goosebumps and not a semi. Well, I was trying to be PG, David. You know, I was trying to keep it a little bit PG. Marianne said, I'm sorry, but it might be 2-2. That's absolutely... Look, I don't think there's anybody can say that any of the three results are out of the realms of possibility. That's what makes this such an exciting game. I can see a world where we beat them. I can see a world where they beat us. I can see a world where it's a draw. That's what makes this so intriguing to me. It's going to be who wants it more. And I hope it's us. I hope we have the moments. I'm so excited for it. Honestly, I don't know if I've been this up for a game all season. It is, yeah, it's huge. Do you think playing Trent as a 6 against Arsenal is too risky? So, is it too risky? No. So, I'm going to give you... Oh, right, you're drawing me out here, dude. You're killing my preview. So, look, I did put Trent in the 6 in my preview. I'm going to explain why for people who might not have watched it. I think if we go to play Arsenal and we have Trent in the hybrid position where he goes from right back into central midfield, I think they will expose us because of the pace of Martinelli, because of the potential attacking threat that they will pose down that side. So my solution in that would be to put Gomez at right back and tell Dude to defend. Tell him to just concentrate on staying, defending and not going too far, not committing too much forward. Put Trent into the number 6, which Jurgen's flirted with. It feels to me like Jurgen wants to try that. But so far we've seen him try it when we've got to drag something from a game rather than from the start. So I would put Joe Gomez there, put Trent in the 6. I'd put Jones ahead of him with Szoboszlai. I think Jones is undroppable after the West Ham game. And that's how I'd set the midfield up. And it's because of respect for Arsenal that I'm not saying put Trent in the hybrid position, because I can see a world with the pace they have on the counter-attack, with Saka, with Martinelli, I can see a world where they get at us if we leave that space exposed. That's the game. Good analysis, Craig. That's my point. Thank you. That's, normally I'd just say stick Trent at right back and make them worry about us. But honestly, I feel like we need to, if we can keep Arsenal at bay, I'll back us to score a couple and win the game. So I think if we can be solid defensively, it gives us the best base to try and win this game, rather than leaving a space there that you want Kanate to cover. I don't know if Klopp does that or if he goes with Endo. And look, by the way, if he goes with Endo, no issue. Endo's done a lot recently to build confidence from me anyway. Yeah, but that's just what I would do. When will I eat broccoli on a stream? When we hit 1 million. If we ever hit 1 million, mate, I'll eat a piece of broccoli on stream. I'll eat a piece of raw broccoli on stream just for you. I really like Gomez at right back, said Namon. Gomez right back and Trent CDM for Arsenal would be nice. Yeah, and look, I feel like it's not just a Looney Tune thing for me to say. Like, look at the last few games. 30 minutes left against United, puts Trent into that position. West Ham last night, even when we were ahead, makes the changes, puts Trent into that position. And I think there was another league game before that again where he did the same thing. Second half, moved Trent up into the midfield position. So I feel Klopp wants to try it at some point. Why not now? Why not? Because we've now McAllister. Yes, Gravenberg's fit and available. Endo could go either way. Potential to do well. I just feel like it's worth it. It's worth the trial. Is Salah still a nailed-on starter for you, Craig? Yes. I think the presence of Mo alone right now is enough. Look, and I read an interesting article today from Simon Hughes, and he spoke about Mohamed Salah's starting position being too wide, and he's too far away from goal when he receives the ball. So it's a lot more than just saying is Salah in a bad vein of form or not. There are extenuating circumstances to it as well. But yes, for me, still a starter, a nailed-on starter. Just saw the short that you put out. I've got to be honest, I don't know what it was. I don't see. Here's an insight into how the channel works. The lads clip stuff all the time and put it out, and I don't know. So I don't know which section you're speaking about. I presume it's something about me talking about being nervous ahead of the game and being grateful for people's support. And I think that's probably what you're talking about. In which case, thank you, mate. You're very kind. He said, much love to you, you brave, beautiful sob. I love that word, sob. It's a very Irish word. Keep bringing people joy. Thank you. But people bring me joy as well, Jacob. And that's the important part for me in this, man, is whatever I give to the world, I promise you, man, you guys give it back a lot. And I couldn't do it without you. I would have given up a long time ago. Right, I'm going to call it a night because I've got to go and record a video with Lee Gunner on his channel, a little preview ahead of the game against Arsenal. I'm not sure when Lee is going to put that one out, but I'll be over with Lee in a while. I think we're recording it. Lee will also join me on Saturday night for a match reaction video, which we're going to record as well, so keep an eye out for that one. So, my friends, Saturday, we're going to be live from 4:30. As always, watch along, match reaction, player ratings, and then a second match reaction with Lee Gunner. Have yourselves a wonderful few days. Thank you for joining me tonight. And I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. We'll go through everything again, probably talk more transfers. You guys are awesome. Appreciate your support. Apologies again for letting you down about my rant on the Salah and Darwin thing. I need to learn. I need to manage myself better. And that's on me. So thank you for your support, and I'll talk to you soon. Much love. Bye-bye.